Let's go on the record. Now, there is a shift that is happening. This is a quiet revolution. For decades, we've been told to trust a financial system that we didn't design, run by institutions that we never elected, and controlled by people who gain when we lose. Most of us grew up believing that money, it was safe in banks, and inflation was just normal. The dollar is untouchable, but what if none of that is particularly true? What if the greatest economic illusion of our lifetime is happening in plain sight? Bitcoin isn't just internet money anymore. It's a challenge to the most powerful system in the world. It is the first time in history where ordinary people, not governments, not banks, have power to own and to control their money without permission. And if that sounds radical, it's because it is. And today we are going right to the source. We are going to speak with somebody who has dedicated her platform to educating, empowering, and exposing the truths that most institutions hope you may never hear. She's bold, she's articulate, she's shaking the table in the world of finance and freedom with her very own newly launched show, SatoSHE, and also known for being part of the show Simply Bitcoin. Sophia, welcome to the record.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited. We've talked about a lot of things on the show and finance is not one of them. So this is a first for the record. So thanks for being here.
Again, thank you for having me. A lot of people don't really talk about finance. You know, it's kind of one of those things that is super boring and buried under our educational system. And you got to wonder, like, is that on purpose? Because money is the base layer of society. It's so important. So I'm really glad to have the opportunity to be able to talk about something as important as finances in a way that will actually empower and help people, especially people in developing countries, women, and marginalized people.
Finance is something you've always had a passion for, or how did you get into this space?
Not really. I actually found finance to be pretty boring as well. I'm a musician, I'm a singer, songwriter, audio engineer. I graduated from NYU Tisch, and I actually never gave finances a second thought because I grew up in the United States. I was very, very privileged to, have the upbringing that I did. And I never thought about finance until I met my husband, Nico, and he started talking to me about the importance of finance because he always had a vision of, having a stable life and having a stable family. When he understood what Bitcoin was, he immediately talked to me about it. At first, I was like, oh my God, this is so cringe. This is so boring. I don't want to talk about this. Like, can't we talk about something more fun? But no, he kept insisting. And for 2 years, he tried convincing me why Bitcoin was important, why I should buy Bitcoin, why this was going to be the next revolution in especially our generation. And I finally listened. After asking 1,004 badgering questions, I finally listened. And that was the beginning of my journey.
So we'll get into some of the more interesting stuff, but let's just start at the very beginning. First, like, what is Bitcoin and what is a decentralized currency as opposed to money in the bank?
Bitcoin, in the simplest terms, is money. And it's not the fake money that you and I are used to using to go buy coffee across the street. It's money that is actually peer-to-peer. It doesn't go through a centralized entity like a bank. And it's backed up by the largest network of computers. They're decentralized computers, meaning that, again, it's not owned by one single company, individual, or institution. And that's a very powerful idea because it gives the power of money back to the people, instead of giving it to a select few powerful people. Anybody could run a Bitcoin node or be part of the network. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter who you are. It just matters that you have a good internet connection and power to run the network.
What is a Bitcoin node?
A Bitcoin node. Okay, so if you could imagine like a nerve cell. A nerve cell has a bunch of little points, right, that connect to each other. That's kind of what a node is. A node is one of those points, and all of those points connect to each other to run the same software, which is the Bitcoin software. That software verifies transactions and keeps a ledger of all the transactions and addresses that are occurring within Bitcoin.
So I'll never forget, in 2011, I was in grade 12. I was about to graduate. My little brother came home and he was telling us, he was like, yeah, we should buy some Bitcoin. We should buy some Bitcoin. And we just laughed. We're like, that's
good, man.
Like ridiculous. We didn't do it. And that was in 2011. We should have jumped on the train. But for people at home watching this now, do you think that it's too late to jump on the Bitcoin train? And what do you think about Bitcoin is so revolutionary?
I don't think it's ever too late to buy Bitcoin, and I'll tell you why. The government is never going to stop printing money. That's going to cause inflation to just keep going up. Let's take the hypothetical.
Okay.
If the government did stop printing money, there would be a massive crash in the economy because liquidity would tighten and people just would not have money to spend. That's why they print in the first place. Things get so expensive that people run out of money to spend. And so that process of printing is never gonna end. And that is why it's always a good opportunity to buy Bitcoin. The feeling that you had in 2011 with your brother, people had in 2017, in 2020, 2021, throughout the years, everybody has said, oh, I should have bought some Bitcoin. And I don't think that feeling is ever really going to stop until maybe Bitcoin hits 1 million.
Is there projections that could happen?
There are projections that people have made that Bitcoin will go to 1 million. I mean, I believe Michael Saylor at the 2024 Bitcoin conference said that by 2040, Bitcoin could hit $3 million a coin. It's not too late.
How do they gauge that type of projection?
So the way that we have historically gauged that prediction is by something called the halving. Basically, we talked about nodes. Now, there's this other side of Bitcoin called Bitcoin mining. And these miners are computers that use electricity. They run the Bitcoin software as well. And they're just trying to guess this algorithm, basically, to try to find a new block. And when they find the new block, they find new Bitcoin and they get rewarded in Bitcoin. You could compare it back to, the 1950s. People would go back and mine gold in California. They would pack up their things, use all of their energy, say goodbye to their families, go cross all the way countryside to California and start digging in hopes that they would find some gold. This is kind of the same thing, but digitally. So every 4 years, that process becomes twice as difficult. So it becomes twice as difficult to find more Bitcoin. Now, the other thing about Bitcoin that makes it special is that there are only 21 million coins. And right now, we've mined over 95%. Every 4 years, it gets twice as hard, and the rewards get cut in half. That supply shock is what makes the value of Bitcoin go up because there are less in the market. Now you have to spend more to acquire some.
If someone's holding Bitcoin right now, do you recommend that they just hold it as opposed to actually going and spending it? Because I know there's a lot of places where you can buy in Bitcoin. What's the kind of play? And this isn't financial advice. This is just purely a question.
I think that that's a really more of a personal question, and it depends on everybody's situation. No, and not even strategy, but situation. So it depends how old you are. It depends how, you want to live your life. And it depends how you see the value of money, essentially. For example, there are a lot of OG Bitcoin whales. So these are people who bought into Bitcoin very early on, and they have thousands of Bitcoin who in October recently offloaded more than 400,000 Bitcoin or something like that. And that kind of made the price tank a little bit, or so they say online. But these are people who have been holding for a really long time, and like they want their billions of dollars in return. They kind of deserve to like have that. I would wager that a lot of those people are older and they're preparing for estate planning and just want to enjoy their wealth. If you are someone who is just, trying to get to 1 Bitcoin, maybe your best bet would be to hold that Bitcoin so that you can watch it grow over time. You might want to use it as a savings account, which is what I always suggest to my family. For example, I'm like, okay, like we all have jobs, we all have other investments. We can use this as kind of like the thing to store our wealth and not let inflation consume it. So it really depends what it is that you want to buy Bitcoin for. A lot of people certainly use it for investing, but there's this other side that sees Bitcoin as a revolutionary technology that saves people from inflation and the debasement of the currency of the US.
Let's say you are working towards that goal of having 1 Bitcoin. Is that something you can keep in the exchange, or do you always recommend taking that off and putting that in a cold storage?
Absolutely take your Bitcoin off of exchanges. This is probably the only time I will look at the camera. Take your Bitcoin off of exchanges. Exchanges are centralized entities. If we recall back in 2020, 2021, whenever this happened, the FTX scandal, there were a lot of people who got screwed over because they had their Bitcoin on the FTX platform. And sure, they're getting their money paid back now. I'm not sure if they're getting paid back in Bitcoin or in fiat, but they had their money tied up in somebody else's hands. And so is that something that you really want to deal with? I think taking the time to have the learning curve and learn self-custody is very much worth it to avoid a litany of headaches, from the exchanges losing your Bitcoin to the government maybe trying to take your Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera. So I would definitely keep your Bitcoin in self-custody.
So you have a show, it's called SatoSHE. Can you tell me a little bit about that, and also the name, because I know that kind of ties into this whole topic of where Bitcoin actually came from?
Yes. Okay, so SatoSHE is my show that I release on Tuesdays and Thursdays around 9-ish a.m. It's basically covering what is in the news in relation to Bitcoin. I also kind of focus on economic principles, things that people might not understand or know about, so that we can reach a wider audience than just, Bitcoin Twitter, Bitcoin X. I have the mission of educating everybody at Simply Bitcoin has the mission of educating people on this topic, because we think that this is not just the solution to financial issues, but the solution to a lot of political issues, social issues, cultural issues that people may not realize broken money has completely ruined. The name Satoshi, it's spelled S-H-E at the end, comes from the fact that Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin. And so I just gave it a little twist with an S-H-E because I'm the only girl on the team. Not a lot of girls in Bitcoin.
Are you just playing mostly in the Bitcoin game, or do you diversify? Is there other cryptos that you kind of speak about as well?
If we do speak about other cryptos, it's usually disparagingly. We call them coins because they are basically the same thing as fiat and other assets. Why do we say that? Because while they might claim to, be faster than Bitcoin, have better technology, whatever that might mean, have a project behind it, because they always claim Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. The reality is that those are coins that the money supply can be increased. It can be completely manipulated by individuals and the people who launch that said cryptocurrency, and it doesn't actually hold any of the fundamentals that Bitcoin has. It's not seeking to revolutionize anything. It's just seeking to make a buck, and mostly for themselves. And in fact, a lot of people have gotten hurt in the process of buying one of these altcoins or cryptocurrencies because they think that, it's like a lottery. It's like gambling in a casino. They think they're gonna get rich quick off of buying this, Dogecoin or Ethereum or whatever, when in reality, you are absolutely rolling the dice and your money is in the hands of people who might just have an interest in themselves. Essentially, they're doing the same thing that banks do. They're taking your money so that they can make money on your money. And then on top of that, potentially they may not, you might not get that money back ever. So it's a many will enter, few will win type of scenario. And we don't think that that's conducive to changing the world or making it a better place at all.
What is it about Bitcoin that you guys believe is so revolutionary?
We believe is so revolutionary, I think, are two things. One of them is the fact that Bitcoin is completely decentralized and it's giving power back to the individual. The second thing is that Bitcoin is completely scarce. Because in 1913 we created the Federal Reserve in the United States, we gave monetary control to the government, and that's a centralized entity. And because we keep printing money and we went off the gold standard in 1971, we have slowly debased our currency, making it pretty much worthless and letting people who, in Nico's words, don't have to work for it, be able to create it for free.
In your opinion, because you said the other cryptocurrencies, they can to a degree be manipulated. Does that mean then they are centralized?
Absolutely centralized. So Bitcoin had what we like to call a virgin birth. Basically, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote the white paper, launched Bitcoin, stuck around for a little bit, and then completely disappeared off the face of the planet. We don't know who he is or she is or the team is. There's no traceability back, but what we do know is that the network itself is controlled by millions of people around the world, and on top of that, the supply is absolutely fixed. No other cryptocurrency can say the same thing because you know who created it, you know who launched it, whatever project there is behind it, it's a scam.
All right, so I've got to ask the question, what is the white paper?
In any business, you have sort of a white paper, and the white paper just means it's explaining exactly what the product is, how it works. It lays it out for people who want to participate, such as investors or, users of the product. So it's just essentially a document explaining exactly what that product is and how it works.
How did that get launched? How did that come out?
I don't really know. I think he just put it up online and people read it and thought it was brilliant and they started using it or they started mining it.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I wasn't there in those days.
I got to ask you about XRP. This is the one I keep hearing about now. Is that also a centralized coin?
Yes. Actually, it's really funny. I saw this video of these OnlyFans girls talking about it online, and it's a pretty viral video right now of one of them saying that she has $1.3 million in XRP. She's just invest in XRP. And they're the other one's but what does it do? She's it doesn't matter. That's the X in XRP or something like that. She said something like that. It's like being in a casino. You see all of the lights, you see all of the people winning, they're all getting drunk and high and whatever, and you just decide to roll the dice. That's what you're doing. Just because maybe your friend of a cousin made millions of dollars off of whatever coin, and now they have a Lambo. It's literally a meme. It's memed into existence. And while that certainly has happened for some people, a lot of people have lost their life savings on these coins. And it's sad because our financial system has driven people to a point where they are desperate to look for an out like that. And so people might look at these altcoins and say, wow, that's my opportunity, when they don't even understand really how our financial system works, how money works, how anything really works. They just understand that it's not working for them and that they want some sort of relief. And the reality is Bitcoin is a little bit boring. It's a long-term investment. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. A lot of people will say, oh, you got lucky buying Bitcoin. You just bought at the right time. But they don't realize that you have to hold for a really, really long time in order to see the benefits, and that you're competing with a financial system that has been in place and dominating the whole world for hundreds of years at this point.
And governments are buying into this, right?
El Salvador was the first government to buy into Bitcoin, to their credit, but this is the first year that the United States has acknowledged Bitcoin and decided to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. We are at the phase where the institutions are here, for better or for worse. There's one camp of Bitcoiners who say this is terrible because people are gonna sell their Bitcoin to Larry Fink of BlackRock. This is gonna be the end of Bitcoin retail. And in a way, I think we've seen that reflected in the price because it's going sideways. It's not as volatile as it once was. But on the other hand, this is part of hyper-Bitcoinization, as we call it, or mass Bitcoin adoption. When you have the institutions finally participating and not becoming an obstacle, you have a chance for other people to take it seriously and to start adopting it in their daily lives. Just yesterday, Jack Dorsey with his company Square launched a new feature where people can now pay in Bitcoin, and he can accept Bitcoin. The small business can set aside a portion of those earnings to go directly into cold storage. That's part of it too. It's companies that are big like that and governments who aren't putting obstacles in those small businesses' ways that make it possible for Bitcoin to reach a global scale.
What would it mean for the everyday investor at home who's just kind of buying this as a method to save or invest if someone like you said, Larry Fink, was to start acquiring more and more of this?
I don't know, to be honest. I think there's two ways of looking at it. I mean, either the price would go up because they're holding some of that Bitcoin in self-custody, right? And that means that as the Larry Finks of the world acquire it, their Bitcoin in self-custody starts to become as valuable as the Bitcoin that Larry Fink is holding. But at the same time, I don't know, because a lot of people will also sell their Bitcoin to Larry Fink if this monetary pattern continues. Like I said, the government is not going to stop printing money. And so the reality is that people with low amounts of savings, including in Bitcoin, if they're put in a tight spot, they're going to sell that Bitcoin. And the first person that's going to be there to buy it is Mr. Uncle Larry Fink, Bitcoin's Employee of the Year. So he, you know, on one side it's good, on the other side I'm not so sure. I think that that's something that we'll just have to see how it plays out in order to really see the ramifications. And the way that we can mitigate some of the negative consequences that we might anticipate is to adopt Bitcoin, like to just buy a little bit every day, no matter what the price is, and just hold it in cold storage. Don't, you know, make yourself broke and do what people buying altcoins are doing and just throw in, you know, mortgage the house and buy Bitcoin. Just buy what you can afford every day. Like, be disciplined about it, keep it in cold storage, and I promise you, I think in 4 to 10 years, you will be very happy with your returns. Before this year, Bitcoin was the best performing asset in the world for like 15 years. It outperformed the S&P 500 regularly. It outperformed real estate. It outperformed all of the major hard assets that we traditionally diversify or invest into to keep our money from getting debased by inflation. This is the first year where it's an anomaly, and it's supposed to be a bull market. And, you know, people have their theories as to why, but traditionally it's been a very, very good investment.
What was the asset that outperformed it this year?
All of them.
All of them?
Yeah, actually, this is the first year the S&P 500 and gold have outperformed Bitcoin. Well, I think gold has always, in terms of dollars, outperformed Bitcoin, but if you price gold in terms of Bitcoin, then the value of Bitcoin still outperformed it. So I don't know why that is. I think a lot of people expected a bull run, a massive bull run, and people say it's because the institutions came in and they're manipulating the market, shaking weak hands. It's because, you know, the government and the Trump administration is buying a bunch of cheap Bitcoin or whatever, and they're suppressing the price. But I just don't, I don't know. Again, that's one of those things. A lot of people will tell you their different theories, and they'll give you their opinions, but the reality is nobody really knows. Bitcoin's gonna do what it's gonna do, and you just you gotta let it. That's why the best strategy is to just buy a little bit every day and put it into self-custody and just forget about it for a long time.
With everything that's been going on with the government shutdowns, have you seen any massive changes in the worth and the value of Bitcoin?
Theories. Some people are saying that because of the government shutdown, we, are experiencing the sideways price action, but I don't really know what that has to do with it. They came to an agreement a couple of days ago that is probably going to be in place by January, and we haven't seen a change in price.
What's the agreement?
I believe that the Democrats conceded their points to the Republicans regarding healthcare, and the Republicans promised to take a vote on Obamacare in the future. And that was what the whole shutdown was about. So I believe they've reached that agreement, but it hasn't been signed into law or whatever. So that's probably going to take a while. Governments are very slow.
So I read this headline this morning before you came in. I was like, okay, what's going on in this space right now? It says China accuses the US of stealing 127,000 Bitcoin worth 13 billion and calls it a state hack.
I don't know how they would do that. China is accusing the US of stealing China's Bitcoin.
China accuses the US of stealing 127,000 Bitcoin worth 13 billion, and they call it a state hack. This is on the Economic Times.
I don't think if China had their Bitcoin in self-custody, it wouldn't be possible to hack it. In fact, if the US hacked self-custody, which is based on 256 SHA, it's the same encryption level that we use for nuclear arms and very high level military grade stuff, we would have bigger problems. We would have really, really tremendous problems in geopolitics. But I haven't heard that story. That's really interesting. I'm going to look into that.
Last question is, what is the biggest myth or the most commonly asked question that you get about Bitcoin? It can be either one.
I think the biggest myth about Bitcoin is that it's a scam. And I think that it's kind of a gaslighting tactic from not just the banks, which Bitcoin completely destroys their entire business model, but also from the cryptocurrency community. Oh, Bitcoin's a scam, because it's not backed by anything. It's not backed by anything that you understand, right? We valued gold for a really long time, and gold is just essentially a shiny rock. And it's but it also has good properties for conducing electricity or whatever. It's great. So does copper, and so do other metals. What are you trying to say here? It is the only asset that is backed by decentralized computers, the largest network of decentralized computers in the world. And that's a first for human history. At first, the internet decentralized information, and now Bitcoin has decentralized money. So that's going to have huge implications. People who are in power and who, it's not convenient for them to have Bitcoin become a thing, are going to say everything that they can to discredit it. And I think that a lot of people have bought that. And for me, that is the biggest misconception about Bitcoin, is that it's a scam. No, the scam is that number that you're seeing on your bank account. It's the fact that you believe that you're going to store your wealth in the dollar when inflation is going up more and more each year.
Well, look, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. You are amazing. And can you just tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for having me. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Internet Sophie without an E at the end, or watch us on Simply Bitcoin. Sometimes I'm on Simply Bitcoin Live, and I have my own show, Simply Bitcoin's SatoSHE with an E at the end, Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning, 9-ish, 9-ish a.m.
Thank you.